Hello everyone, I'm Deb and this is DB Designs and Sewing Australia. Welcome to all my subscribers and welcome to anyone who's new. And a big thank you to all of the people who bought me a coffee through my Ko-fi account last week. That was lovely, very much appreciated. Now last week I did a video on altering a pattern to raise the neckline when you think your neckline's too low or you don't want it to show too much of your cleavage, or for some other reason you want your neckline raised higher. And so I've had a couple of requests from people saying, could I show you how to lower your neckline? Generally, it's not something I do very much. I might do it in a t-shirt with a crew neck. I mainly do it on a crew neck or a round neck, depending, maybe it's an evening thing and you want it to be a bit lower. But today we're going to do it on this tank top called the Tara. So as you can see, it's tank top here. Now I got this pattern free in a magazine and I'm never going to use it. So I thought I'll just do a test with this pattern. So there's two different ways to lower your neckline. One makes your neckline slightly wider, and one keeps it pretty similar to what is already existing. So let's go through what we do. So here we have the pattern piece cut out. And here we have a replica of that pattern piece. So if we put that pattern piece on top of this pattern piece, we can see, especially if I've drawn in the bottom line, that it is identical. I'll just whip that bottom line in. Let's look at making a 1 centimetre adjustment. So what we need to do is find our 1 centimetre mark on the neck. So this is the center front and it actually goes on the fold. So it doesn't have a front center seam, but it wouldn't make any difference if it did or not. So now we want to draw this line. So there's our horizontal line, and that's where we want to take the new neckline down to. So the first method, got this lined up, always keeping the center front together. We're just going to drop this pattern piece down. And we are going to draw in our new line. Now I don't usually do anything in textures. I use pencils for everything. But so that you can see it on camera, I am using coloured textures, which are actually calligraphy pens, because I don't know what my grandchildren have done with the textures, or if maybe I took them away so they wouldn't draw on the walls, because at Christmas time there was a fair few age differences, and so we've got some wall drawers. So I don't know where they are now. I'll have to find them. So this is, you can see how easy it is. This is our first one. That's the first method, which is just the drop down method. And now we're going to use the pivot method. So we're lining up our pattern piece in the original place when we first drew it onto our tracing paper. And we're just going to pivot from this top corner. So that's the inner corner of the shoulder. Pivoting down until our center front is touching that 1 centimeter line. Making sure that our top shoulder corner is still in the correct place. So that's going to be our new line for here. We'll just draw that in. So that purple line is from using the pivot method. So you can see you've got 2 methods here. We've got our pivot method, which is the purple line, and we've got our drop down method, which is the blue line. So the pivot method does widen the neckline as well as dropping it down. And I can't say I've got a personal preference. It depends on what the top is, how far down I'm taking it, because as you can imagine, let's just put this back in to where it was. Let's just put this back where it was. So just say you were going to lower it by a lot more, you can see how far out it would make this neckline come. So we only did 1 centimeter. So there is a difference in here between the 2 methods. Nothing else has changed. Doesn't matter which method you use. All you're doing is altering the front part here. No alteration to the shoulder, to anything else. To make a facing, you would just trace this off. Now, because I haven't used this pattern, I'm not sure if this had a facing or not. And in the case of this top, because it's only a 1 centimeter lowering, I would probably go with the purple line and go with the wider neck. So it really depends how far you're dropping it down as to which method you use. So this is just making a very quick facing, and it's just the width of the ruler. And I'm not sure. No, this is sleeveless, so it probably has, it's all bias binding. But if you were making a facing, remember this is what you would do. And I always put fold on there, so I know it's the center front, and SH on here, so I know it's the shoulder. And we don't really need to put a grain line on it because it's going to be on the fold. But if you had something and it was going to require a grain line, we know that that would be the grain line because it's in conjunction with the center front, which is center front is the grain. And you can see that from here. Here's the pattern piece. Now some pattern pieces have grain lines as well. We can see that's 5 inches from the center front fold to their grain line that they've got drawn in, and it's 5 inches from the center front fold to that grain line. So I don't usually draw in grain lines when it comes to things that are placed on the fold, because I know it's going to be on the grain anyway. But that, you could see how fast it was to make that facing. Just purely and simply putting it over the top. And then I would probably go around and tidy that up and make it nicer. Or when you cut it out, you can do that. Cutting it out with paper scissors. So that's the two different ways. So this blue line is a drop down method. So you can see we don't lose very much off the width of our inside neckline. And the purple one is the pivot method. Now, as I said, it's up to you. I'd be making a toile if I was making something and altering the neckline. She says, like she always makes a toile. But from looking at this aesthetically, my eye is much more drawn to the nicer aesthetic being the purple line. I don't know what everyone else thinks, and it depends how scooped things are. And in the case of t-shirts, you can get t-shirts that are very, very scooped, which means they're very, very U-shaped. And so the shoulders come in quite a bit to the neck, and they're very U-shaped. That's not really my thing. I prefer a V-neck anyway. But in the case of this round neck, when I look at these drawings, the purple one does much more for me than the blue one does. But that is just people's personal taste. So, as I said, this was not supposed to have a facing, but I thought I would just show you how quick and fast it is to make a facing. All you've done is trace that off. Now, so I just used the width of the ruler, which is 4 centimetres. So that's how fast it is to make a new facing. I wouldn't bother fiddling around with a facing that already exists for a new neckline. It is easier just to draw in the new one. Of course, you should always be making new pattern pieces when you alter a pattern anyway, she says. Not that we all do that, but... And the reason I cut out this pattern is because I will never be using it. So I will use it for testing purposes, because it actually would not be a bad one to show you how to turn a round neckline into a V neckline. But that's for another day. But as you can see, it's not difficult to do at all. So as you can see, that is how easy it is to lower a neckline. Lowering a neckline and raising a neckline is not a difficult thing. You do not have to be a pattern maker. And my pattern maker teacher would not approve of doing it this way, because apparently you just remake the pattern, Deborah. But this is something you can do fast and easily. You just need to have a bit of tissue paper or a bit of tracing paper. Now, people have asked me where I got my tracing paper from. And this is my actual tracing paper that I use. And it comes from Amazon. So I will put the details in the description because it's always handy to know. I'm going to go and find my textures now. I will be having more vlogs on how to do adjustments on patterns coming up. I've just got a lot of sewing to do at the moment. I have made a few things, and I've got 4 tops and 4 shirts and 1 dress to make. And what I am going to make, I don't know when, before I go overseas, and what I am going to make is a Lois dress by Tazudi in the beautiful Miss Moresby Neon Sea, I want to say it's called. It's beautiful fabric, just beautiful. But it's a neckline that I'm going to have to raise up. I already know I'm going to have to raise that up. Look how low it is on her. I wonder if it's got any more images in the book. I do love Tzuti books. They're really, really nice. No, it hasn't really. I guess it's got this image down here where you can see it's actually really low. And a bigger line drawing. It's actually really quite a low dress. So I'm going to need to decide how to do that because it joins to the underbust. It's not like it's cut on the center front fold and easy just to lift up and raise up. So I will take you through that with me. Probably will involve doing a couple of toiles. But that's all part of the fun of sewing. It's all part of the fun of getting something fabulous that fits you really well and that you love wearing. I can see I would start off with a 14. This is a pattern that I am going to trace out. I would never cut straight into this pattern because it's probably going to require adjustments. But I really like the dress, and I know I don't have a young person's cleavage, so I really need to cover some of it up. But I love the sleeves and just the style of this dress. I will take you through the changes that I'm going to make to this dress as I do them. And I've actually got an influx of work to do. So I've got 5 shirts, 4 tops, 1 mock-up pair of pants that's then going to have pants made and a matching shirt made in the Miss Moresby fabric. So I'll show you that as I go along. They're not for me, they're for someone else. I hope everybody understood. Don't forget, I'll put the information of the tracing paper. It's not a link. I'm not associated with Amazon at all. I think I've bought it from other places before. So remembering, depending which method you use, the drop-down method will give you a less altered neckline except for the depth, and the pivot method will give you a slightly wider neckline as well as the depth. And in my mind, even just looking at it like that, I think I actually much prefer the pivot method. I think that is a nicer shaped neckline. So, but it's up to you. Try it, make some toiles. And if you're making toiles just in the top part to change your neckline, just make the front and the back, sew them at the shoulders, sew them at the side seams. Do put the darts in because that will make a difference if your top has darts. Just out of a bit of calico and see how you like it and think, no, don't like it. I want it to be cut out more. I want it to be cut out less. I want it to be a different shape, because you can just alter the shape yourself. And you saw how easy it was to make the facing. So once you've settled on your front shape, you know what it is, you've cut it out, you've made a toile, you're happy with it, just put another piece of paper over the top of your pattern and make yourself a facing. If it has a facing, it may very well not have a facing. It may be a t-shirt and have a band, maybe a t-shirt and just have a fold over. It may have a bias binding neckline. So whatever you do, remember how easy it is to make a facing. My preferred method for cotton tops is to have a facing for the front neck and bias for the sleeve. So that's just some bias binding I made and turned to the outside. I do actually prefer, on something that's got a heavy amount of cotton or linen in it, I prefer to turn the bias binding to the outside and stitch it down. Viscose or what in Australia we would call rayon from Spotlight, so quite a lightweight rayon or lightweight viscose. Because if you look up, if you go to the end of a bolt and it says that this is where all the rayon is, you go and you look at the bolt. When you look at the end of it, it says 100% viscose. So in Australia, rayon is viscose, but there's all different levels, weights, GSMs, so that's weights, of viscose. And some of it's much more tightly woven than others, and some of it's just beautiful quality. There's a lot of different weights and feels within the viscose that you get at Spotlight or Lincraft. Anyway, that's all from me. It's going to be 32 today, so that's a really nice day here. I best go and do some more washing of fabric and think about starting all those tops and shirts. Please like and subscribe and share this video. I will put a link in for where I get my tracing paper from. And as I said, not affiliated with Amazon by any means. It's just where I found it at a decent price. It seems good quality. And seriously, I live in the country and it gets delivered. I think I bought it on a Friday afternoon and it got here on a Monday. So you can't really do better than that. I'd have to say the service is pretty good. I'll also put a link in for my previous video on how to raise a neckline, which seems to be a more common alteration on a pattern. But, you know, there may be some that you want to lower. And you may want to lower it even if you're short because it just comes up too high. Or it comes up to here and you think, nah, I actually want it here. So remembering it's up to you how you want to do it. Do I just want to drop it down and not alter this very much? It will still alter it a bit. Every pattern's going to be slightly different because it's probably going to have a different shaped neck. So keeping that in mind and doing a toile and deciding, no, I could take heaps more off this. And what am I wearing? I am wearing my set. So I have got the pants on, which is the New Look 6351. I added side pockets. It doesn't have side pockets in them. And the side pocket pattern I always use when it doesn't have side pockets is the Rosary shorts from Rosary. It's called Rosary Apparel. Janelle. It's a very good pattern maker. Does great patterns. The top, remembering this top section is the Paloma jumpsuit top from Nerida Hansen. I ended up extending the bodice by 5 centimeters, and I still needed to add another 2.5 centimeter to the bottom edge. Ends up with a split. That the next one I made of these, I fixed it up, but I like this pattern. I really like the armholes. It like keeps all your bits in, and I love the shape of this neckline. So this neckline, it's really, rather than even a V neckline, it's sort of a heart neckline. Besides the whole fact that I have to embrace the arms, I really, really like this neckline. I have transferred that neckline onto a lot of other patterns. So just a neckline that I'm really happy with the shape of. I think the shape really suits me, and that's what I said. From looking at this, I can already tell that I would go for the purple one. It's just that shape is much more aesthetically pleasing to me, but that's just a personal thing. It's nothing to do with which one's right, which one's wrong. It's just whatever your taste is. You can just whip up a facing for whichever one you choose to do. Remembering that facings, when it's overlaid over the pattern piece, it should match exactly. Otherwise, how is it going to sit flat on the inside of your garment? It's not. So if you're ever thinking, why isn't this facing working? Get out your pattern pieces and check and make sure it's identical. That's another reason why I block fuse. Now, block fusing is you've got 3 pattern pieces that need interfacing on them. So I interface a piece of fabric. Sometimes you have to jiggle it all around to make it fit and to not waste too much interfacing and to not stick the interfacing to your ironing board cover. So you fuse the interfacing to your fabric and then you cut out your pattern piece. And your pattern piece should be exact. Remembering if they're not matching in the necks, are you doing stay stitching? And remembering our stay stitching is going from the shoulder to the center front, from the shoulder to the center front, from the shoulder to the center back, from the shoulder to the center back. Now it doesn't matter if you've got a seam up the center back, it still goes from the shoulder to that center back. So if your facings are not matching your garment, have you done your stay stitching? Have you block fused it? So that's all from me today. I hope you all understood that and can see how easy it is to drop a neckline. It is really easy. So it's just a preference. And as I said, make a toile. And so you don't have to put sleeves in it if you don't want to or any of those things. If you are doing it just simply because you've changed the neckline, just do a front and a back. And just make sure it's going to be what you thought it was going to be. Or no, now I've lowered it too far. And remembering that when you're looking at something like this, clearly this is size 6, so it's not my size. When you've cut that out, or in the case of this, when you've cut this out, and so this is your toile, remembering to fold in your seam allowance. I'm sure the seam allowance on this is probably 5/8 of an inch, which is 1.6 centimeters. But if you're using an indie pattern, it is possible that it will be 1 centimeter. Except for this one, I've just read this. Notes, seam allowance is 5 millimeters. Whoa, would not want to be wanting to make too many errors on that. Don't make it too small because you'll have nothing to let out. Whoa. Considering it goes from a size 16 to a size 30. That's UK sizes, so 12 to a 26 in US sizes. And it's got a 5 millimeter seam allowance. Whoa. Something I always check on all of my patterns. If I look through my patterns, so many of them will have written on it what the seam allowance is. Sometimes it also has what the hem allowance is. That way it's a really quick look if you're trying to Tetris your pattern together. Because sometimes if I can't get my garment out lengthwise on my fabric, I may leave only 5 mil allowance on the hem and then make a facing and put it on there, or use some wide bias tape and put it on there. So sometimes you can still get the full length out, but that's just raving on about something completely different. I'm going to go now. Please like and subscribe and share this video. I'll have all the details down in the bottom section. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.